Hi, everyone. Welcome to what I anticipate is going to be a fantastic panel, The Beauty of Inclusion, which I am so thrilled to be moderating with these two fantastic ladies next to me. My name is Brian Underwood. I'm the Beauty and Wellness Director of Oprah Daily. And I'm with two women who really need no introduction. Nyakio Grieco, the founder and CEO of 13 Lune, and Michelle Waslow, the EVP and Chief Merchandising Officer at JCPenney. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
So I know that we probably have some budding entrepreneurs in the audience, some entrepreneurs who are just getting started, who I'm sure would be really thrilled to hear about each of your professional journeys. So Nyakio, let's start with you. I've known you for years and years, and I think your professional journey is quite interesting. So can you just sort of recap it for us in the audience here?
Sure. Is this on? Oh, it's on. Hi. Yes. So I'm Nyakio. I'm the founder of Nyakio Beauty, as well as the co-founder of 13 Lune. And my beauty journey started about 20 years ago. I launched a brand called Nyakio, named after my grandmother, not myself, based on Kenyan family beauty secrets. Really wanted to have the continent of Africa better represented in premium beauty. I started that business when I was 27 out of my apartment in LA. I was customer service, shipping and receiving, the founder, all the things, and launched that brand into Fred Siegel in LA and Jeffrey here in New York, and then kind of built it on my own, and it's had many stops and starts and journeys, but it now lives at Unilever and sells at Target. And in the summer of 2020, after the murder of George Floyd, I found myself, Nyakio, and the brand Nyakio showing up on all of the lists, top 20 Black-owned, Black-founded brands to shop, to follow. And while it was great to have the recognition for the brand and the sales go up, it was also built on the precipice of this very hard time. And for me personally as a founder, I thought, gosh, why has it taken 18 years to get this sort of attention for a brand that I've worked so hard on? And so, I decided, as I say all the time, to take my pain and turn it into purpose. And so I started shopping the lists, and I was blown away by how many Black-owned brands there were in the marketplace that I had never heard of. And there were amazing initiatives like the 15% Pledge and Pull Up for Change that were also born out of the summer of 2020. But my co-founder and I thought to ourselves, these brands need recognition. They have a lot of them had very few followers, some larger following. But really it was about changing the narrative. And both he and I are very committed to diversity and inclusion in the businesses that we've had. I am a Black woman who makes products for all people, and so do they. And so we created 13 Lune, which is the first of its kind, truly inclusive beauty platform where 90% of the brands, so we took our own pledge, which is 90-10. So 90% of the brands that we carry are created by Black and brown people who create products for everyone. And 10% of our brands are dedicated to fostering allyship. And we define an ally as someone long before the summer of 2020 who was committed to diversity and inclusion. So we have great brands like Goop and Vintner's Daughter and a lot of allies that are helping us to, fly that flag for inclusion. And then very recently, we partnered with this one over here at JCPenney and opened the first of our 10 store-within stores at JCPenney Beauty, and we'll be rolling out to the rest very soon.
Amazing. I have some follow-ups for you. We're going to talk about some things that you talked about a little bit there, but I want to get to Michelle and introduce Michelle very quickly. So Michelle, talk about your career journey as well, because you just sort of landed at JCP a couple years ago. So talk to us a little bit about how you came to where you are.
Not to age myself, I started when I was 10, but I've been in this business for 35 years. So it'll take a long time to go through 35 years of my career, but I will say how my career started, it was always in retail, but how it started is exactly why we're here today. So I started my career actually in the field. Working in stores. And I worked for a very small company in Minneapolis, actually, back in the 80s. And it was one store, and I worked in the store helping the customers, and they had the job open for the buyer of one of the areas. And, I was like in fashion school, like 20 years old or something. And I was like, I want to be the buyer. And they agreed, which is so interesting.
Sometimes you just gotta have the chutzpah, right?
And by the way, this was being a buyer, and I made no money, literally vintage clothing, it made no money, struggling paycheck to paycheck. And it was at a couture store in Minneapolis, Minnesota called Herald, which is no longer business, selling Bottega Veneta handbags. And that was the area I started buying for. And Signer, jewelry before those, were as relevant as they are today. And so they allowed me. And so I give that story as the start of my experience because I had to get to know that customer to buy for them. None of the products I bought, I could afford. I didn't understand them, and aesthetically, they weren't me. And I had to get to know that customer so well to buy for them. And it turned out to be very successful. And the loyal customers would always say, because I was on the floor and I was buying, because it was a small, so they said, you just have asked me so many questions to get to know me. And so, did a lot of stops between there. Gap Inc. I was most recently at Target, came to JCPenney nearly 3 years ago, and really it was for that reason. Because the customer we serve, the families, the communities, the fabulousness of the diversity of America is what JCPenney is about. And I really wanted to be someplace where we could proudly deliver for this customer, because so many retailers now are like, we want this customer, and we love our customer. And so it was just really, it feels like I was supposed to come here after all this time to do this.
That's what I love so much about this partnership is the accessibility of it all. I think that epitomizes sort of the beauty of inclusion, doesn't it? And so, Nyakio, the follow-up I wanted to ask you about was this idea that we've talked about, that we are 90% Black and brown founded, but we make products for everyone. How do you sort of telegraph that message, and what has that been like for you and 13 Lune?
Yeah, so last summer when Nyakio Beauty and myself were getting so much attention because we were living at the most heightened moment of the Black Lives Matter movement, I would get a lot of DMs and messages on social from people saying, I really want to buy your face oil or your coffee scrub that are in the Nyakio Beauty brand, but can I use it on my skin because I don't look like you? And I found it kind of offensive, but also very surprising, because I, as a Black woman, have been using beauty products my entire life that are made by people who don't look like me, knowing that they work on my skin and my hair. So, of course, we as founders, we formulate first for ourselves. So, of course, anything I ever made in my skincare line had to work on my skin. But they were formulated in a way that it was about the ingredients. It was about my grandmother teaching me her first coffee scrub recipe, and my grandfather being a medicine man. That was what I was sharing with the world. And I launched at Fred Siegel and Jeffrey and sold to every upscale boutique in the country that didn't necessarily cater to the Black or brown consumer. So what I realized is, these sweet people that want to buy my brand are DMing me, asking me this, what's going on in the rest of the world? And because we were living in such divisive times, I thought that 13 Lune and my founder, Patrick, co-founder Patrick, we thought 13 Lune would be such a beautiful way to unify. I mean, beauty's universal. It's kind of single-handedly the one industry that everybody loves. And so many of the ingredients that we use and celebrate are from marginalized parts of the world, Southeast Asia, Africa, and so we wanted a place where we could celebrate that, but we want everyone to be able to discover. So it's a place of discovery, and there are many great platforms that are Black for Black or brown for brown, but we also believe that Black and brown people deserve more shelf space than 15%, and so we wanted to create what is true in the world. I mean, look at this room.
Amazing. I love that, and I love that message. Michelle, in terms of this incredible partnership, how did that come about, and what made sense about it to you from the JCPenney lens?
Well, it's funny because it came about, there's so many entrepreneurs, and it was literally the scrappiest entrepreneurial meeting ever.
Yeah.
And I actually say that because it wasn't this, well, let's get together from a corporate standpoint. And we literally had been working on our new beauty strategy, and very customer-led. We'd interviewed thousands of customers. We knew what we wanted to do. We knew that hyper-inclusivity was the foundation for everything we were doing. And we knew that we wanted to also have a place where we can really have entrepreneurial brands and new brands have a home in retail shelf space, not just in. And so literally, I think within a month of them launching, we were introduced. And it literally was just, we got on the phone or got on video and just started talking about our passions for customers and for what Nyakio and Patrick were doing and the brands. And it literally was like, oh my God, let's do something. Okay, great, let's do something. I wish we had this like really, and then we followed up with another PowerPoint.
No, this is very encouraging to me, actually.
Right. And then we followed up a month later. It was like, hey, let's do it. Call you tomorrow. And it was basically, it just felt right. Yeah. And that is, I think, what you're seeing within our, we only have 10 stores right now. We'll obviously have all of our stores, but what we're seeing even from our customers, in the 10 stores, all the customers coming in, regardless of skin color, are responding to, 13 Lune is our top brand in every single location. And they're responding because of the stories, the authenticity, the connection, and it is not about the color of their skin. They're buying the product because they believe in the product.
Right.
And so I just think, not overthinking things sometimes is actually better. Yeah. Because if it feels right, do it.
Right.
I love it. That's an encouraging story to me, actually. The scrappiness makes me feel good.
It absolutely was.
So, Nyakio, obviously 13 Lune is here to take down some of the barriers to entry for BIPOC founders. I'm wondering, what are still some of the ones that you see persisting today? And are those barriers, are there any of them that are unique to the beauty and personal care space?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I say this probably every single day, that one of my biggest fears, I'm so happy to see our fellow beauty retailers, really trying to move the needle for change. But one of my biggest fears is that we're recreating the segregation aisle with a black wall or a black aisle. And, at 13 Lune, we are black and brown for all. So we have founders. We started with 13 black-owned brands. We now have over 100 brands, and we have our 1-year anniversary next month. But they represent founders from all over the globe, including our allies. So when you come into our 13 Lune at JCPenney stores within store, we have a picture of every founder. Not just a picture of our black founders or our brown founders. You will see Sarah Happ and our other ally brands on that shelf because it's truly inclusive. And so, I do think that the industry can do a better job both in front of the scenes and behind the scenes. Absolutely, shelf space, number one. But it's also, when we look at our allies, and I say behind the scenes as part of how you become an ally brand, it's, I'll take Goop, for instance. Gwyneth, from probably the third year Nyakio existed, when Goop launched, she immediately put my products on the Goop site and wrote articles about me. Like, that's allyship, right? And also behind the scenes at Goop, they really elevate people to be in executive roles. So it's more about seats at the table. It's all about the ecosystem. But the greatest part of it all is that as we continue to support these brands, to support women brands, to support LGBTQ brands, black and brown brands, we're really building generational wealth. And that's really why we do this. I think that we as an industry have an opportunity, probably more than any other industry, to make this shift and change. But I do think 90-10 can work across fashion. It could work across everything. So, we just hope that we, in partnership as well with JCP Beauty, but I will say, to the point of our introduction, Patrick and I had always seen 13 Lune as a full omni-channel business. We definitely didn't expect that to happen 90 days after we launched. But at the same time, it's, we, the JCPenney team and the 13 Lune team, it was like, you had us at hello. We speak the same language, but most importantly, JCPenney as a company, JCP Beauty, it wasn't performative. You know, we Black and brown people can cut through that in 5 seconds, right? And we know what it feels like to be a token. And we need to be seen and heard, and people buy into people before they buy into product. And customers want to see themselves reflected on shelf. And so that's the promise that we are all delivering on.
You bring up such a good point. That is something we talk about at Oprah all the time in relation to beauty, is that beauty and identity are so intertwined, and the story behind brands is as important as the products itself. So Michelle, my question from a retailer perspective, with a partnership like 13 Lune, where there is such an opportunity for storytelling behind these brands, how do you bring that to the retail level?
Well, Nyakio touched on it a bit. Actually, what's been amazing is we actually tell those stories both in the store and online.
Yeah.
And so, because you know, what Nyakio said always has struck with me is like they buy product from the people, right, first. And so when you go into the store experience, not just online where it's easier to tell that story, you will see it's actually a brief story of the founder and their photo and what they're about. And then we've trained the associates so they can tell the stories. And so what's really interesting, we've been hitting all the stores together, and to watch our beauty associates, again, when someone comes in, tell a story of, you know, Prados, and they're telling the story to a man or a woman, or, you know, black, brown, white, doesn't matter, and telling the story with such passion, and then people are buying that product. It literally, you watch this difference of, oh, are you looking for something? And there's your aisle. It is literally, let me tell you the stories of founders we have in our location here, and what might work for you. It is completely different. And I would say to Nyakio's point, we're proud of 13 Lune and the partnership there, but throughout all of beauty, there's other brands that are Black and brown founded that aren't part of 13 Lune, because this isn't our, ooh, now we're doing it because we have 13 Lune partnership. This is our cornerstone partnership. In addition, throughout the rest of the beauty space, there's other brands by Black and brown founders or for, you know, texture hair or, you know, melanin. It's like for everyone. So, and that's why it may be controversial to say I have a little bit of an issue with the 15% thing, because like, what happens when you get there? Okay, we're great now, we're diverse. Right. You know, what does that mean versus just authentic representation?
Right. Why put a cap on it?
Yeah.
Right.
So this has gone by so fast. We're nearing the end of our chat.
Wow.
But before we end, we have something kind of fun and special planned. We're going to do a bit of a mini mentoring session here with an incredible emerging brand called Grieco, founded by the fabulous Tony Johnson, who's sitting right here in the front row. So I'd like to welcome Tony up here, who has a couple of questions for Michelle and Nyakio. So Tony, take it away.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, Tony.
It's a pleasure. So for me, Nyakio, starting 13 Lune, you have this social impact. What was that process like with creating a theory of change? How did you want 13 Lune to be represented?
Yeah, it's so interesting. That's a great question. You know, I and my co-founder, but for myself, I'll speak of myself specifically, 13 Lune was created because I wanted to help other people get to success quicker. I mean, I'm so grateful to have taken my brand from my apartment in my 20s to Target in my 40s, but it took almost 20 years. And I really stopped to ask myself why. And as an entrepreneur, you know, we're often such perfectionists, and we blame ourselves for a lot of our stops and our starts and our fails. And it was literally at 47 years old that I looked in the mirror and I thought, gosh, maybe that wasn't my fault, right? Because I was actually, as we all were, living out in real life a global pandemic and a systemic racism pandemic. And so, you know, it was never, I think, intended to be a social impact company. It was meant to be a company that was there to move the needle for change. And you know, it's interesting because, you know, we just closed our last round, and I got often asked by investors, you know, well, what's going to happen when you nurture these brands and they go off to this retailer or this retailer? And I was like, then my job's done, right? then that means that I'm actually contributing, right? And so, yeah, you know, and I think the theory for change is, and this is something I would also say to investors, is that you can do good and build a profitable business at the same time. And, you know, Black and brown people are number 1 and 2 in spending in beauty power. So if you're neglecting them as far as shelf space, do you think as the world grows more and more towards the population looking like my kids who are Kenyan, Irish, Italian, and French, that they're going to naturally want to buy your dated product that doesn't represent them? Or do you think that it's probably best to start creating for them now as they're moving into their spending power? So that's really, you know, less about theory for change, but just doing exactly what we should all be doing. For the first time in my life, in my career, going from a beauty founder to a beauty e-tailer to a beauty retailer, that I now fully understand why it is that I started that brand a long time ago.
I think that answers your question, Tony, right?
Yes. That's amazing. Thank you so much. And then when you're looking for brands, this works for both of you. What are you looking for in success? What are the traits? What are are you looking for the founder story? Are you looking for the products, the ingredients? What does it take?
This is a great question because there are so many brands out there. So what is that process like?
So I love your question because it's, here's what I would say. First and foremost, even as an entrepreneur founder, be persistent. I have a motto with my team, you know, answer every reach out because you never know, right? You never know. And so, because you just never know. So that's first and foremost, don't give up. But the second is, I get that question a lot, like, well, why'd you decide? How are we gonna make it different? How's it gonna stand out? And I would say what I'm hearing more from founders in Latinx or BIPOC is how many times they've been told by a retailer to change, including my friend next to me. So, you know, we literally have talked to some companies and they are actually going to be joining us. So, you know, more to come in the future. And what they've said is, this is how I started my brand. This is what it was about. And I'm like, well, that's great. They're like, well, but I have to go back and rework it because when I went somewhere else, I had to change. They wanted me to lower my price point to be more commercial. I had to change the packaging for this reason. I had to do this. And what I've said to every one of them, and my team has said to everyone, is like, well, how about you just do what you wanted to do and we'll sell it that way? And because by changing to be someone's version of more commercial, isn't there a reason they wanted to talk to you in the first place? And so I always wonder why, as retailers, we seek out and we listen to people that we're really inspired by. We're like, oh my God, look what they're doing. And then we ask them to change everything about what they're doing in order to be part of our business. And so what we're doing for JCPenney Beauty is, if you're coming to our company, it's because we want you to come to our company. We don't want you to change to come to our company. And I think that's important because all of you out there will be asked multiple times to change and do things. Now, sometimes there's mechanical things, you know, operationally that will have to be, and that's different. But like, then you're not as excited about your business anymore if you had to change who you are. So that's what I would say.
Amazing.
I love that.
Amazing.
Should I answer real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So for us at 13 Lune, when we are reviewing brands, and we're very, very lucky, our very first key hire is a woman named Janelle Freeman, who's a Black woman, but she is a buyer that came from Net-a-Porter. So having an expert like that has made it so great. But for us, it's always, you know, founder first, a rich founder story. What makes you, there's only one you, so what makes you different? Because that means that's gonna bleed into your brand. We love to err on the side of non-toxic beauty. There's still way too many products being marketed to Black and brown and all that are packed with chemicals, and you know, we want your brands to actually be able to serve all, and that means Black and brown people too. And the other thing is that we really engage our community. We have something that we call our Beauty Vanguard, which is, our kind of group of editors, stylists, makeup and hairstylists, friends, actors, that we engage and we kind of help vet our products. But for me, it's people first. I mean, I'm looking out right now and I'm seeing the founders of Infused and I'm seeing the founders of Lure. Like they were people to me first. And so everything that they create is a reflection of who they are and how they've studied and how hard they work. And they also deliver on product. And so, I think it really is a combination of all of that. And then, with the brands that we've brought into our set at JCP Beauty, it's just been really exciting because they're some of my favorite storytellers, and they're brands like Butter and Prados, and they all come to life on shelf because of the life behind them.
Thank you so much.
Tony, thank you so much. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's give Tony a big round. So we're running over, but Jed told me I can have some more time, so I'm just going to take it. I think as an editor, we're always looking ahead. And so I don't want to let either of these two genius brains leave the stage without asking them about what is to come and what are some things that you're seeing in the industry. We used to call them trends, but I kind of think trends are dead, so I won't use that term. But what are some things that are exciting you, and what do you think is coming that's really exciting you? Nyakio, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so I'll start from the personal, which is I'm developing my second brand. And so that's been really, really exciting to kind of take the key learnings over the last 20 years and expand.
Which you'll hopefully hear about first on Oprah Daily.
But I would say, trends it's so interesting. I was doing an IG Live the other day with the founder of McCreen, which is one of the skincare brands that we carry on 13 Lune, and she's wise beyond wise. She's a dermatologist, Brilliant. She's a chemist, she knows more about product than I've ever, heard anybody, and she really delivers on the promise. And what I love about her as a dermatologist is that she's all about trying to save you from having to do, certain treatments on yourself by using her skincare, which is amazing because she does those treatments. But
she's a founder who really knows about formulation.
She really knows. And she knows about every polypeptides and niacinamide and triglycerides. But, one trend that I'm seeing, and I think I read about this the other day, I think in maybe Business of Fashion, is that seeing brands that are now starting to call out things like apple cider vinegar, things on the kitchen counter, right? And I believe as consumers, sometimes it can just be too much, right? And while I'm such a lab nerd and love every part of the science of creating products, I also love the simplicity of things that come from the earth.
Well, that was Nyakio Beauty, right?
Yeah, well, yes. I did start making coffee scrub in my kitchen because I learned how to in Kenya from my grandmother. But yeah, I love that. I see this trend of transparency. I do see a trend in inclusion. If you look at the sunscreen market, we just launched Venus Williams, we've launched Unsun. The idea that, I think and I hope that more Black and brown people are starting to wear sunscreen every day. I know at 48, I was told, swimming at the pool in Oklahoma when I was a kid, you don't need it, by my swim coach. And now seeing the melanoma numbers that are creeping up, this room specifically, I love that wellness is now considered a beauty item. Beauty does start from the inside out, and no matter what we put on our face, if you're not taking care of the insides and also this part, then those products won't work. So I love all of those trends, but I think all of those trends really lend to getting back to just being authentic. And that's really exciting to me.
Michelle, how about you? Because from the retailer perspective, you're seeing a lot all the time. So what's getting your juices flowing?
Well, I won't go into all the fancy beauty words that Nyakio knows, but I actually think what is exciting for me to watch and what we've seen is just customers' real interest in trying more things at home. And just where the industry's come with, pills and LED pills and all these advancements in at-home skincare routines. That's beyond just, you know, the eye cream and the lotion. And so I think the advancements there so people can do things at home and put the power in their own self to do things, I think is really incredible what the industry's done and all the innovations that's happening, and in a clean and safe way, quite frankly. But that's what we are hearing from our customers is, you know, I want to try some things at home. How do I use this? What do I do beyond the treatment? You know, same thing when I grew up, it's like, you know, you just wash your face and put on some hand lotion. I mean, it was not talked about, right? And just do it at home. And I think the other thing that's really interesting that I love watching is the younger generation. And so I have 2 daughters, 21 and 19, and been with them and all their friends. And I think what's so amazing is to watch that generation and the care that they take in their skin at a young age, whether it's sunscreen or just eye creams or, you know, all the things. Like, there's such a understanding of health and well-being at the youngest age that I think, to Nyakio's point too, it wasn't until I was, you know, I'm 54. It wasn't until my 40s I'm like, oh, dang, I better get going on this stuff, right? And so I think that's just extraordinary to see what the industry's going to become because of all these young people who understand at a young age.
Absolutely. My 15-year-old daughter is, and actually her formulator standing over there in the corner, is creating a hair care brand, and she's 15, and she taught me about my curl pattern and hair porosity and, you know, but also sustainability. And that's really like, she's like, I only want, you know, refillables and, you know, I don't want aerosol mommy. And I did it, you know, and it's just so incredible. I learned so much from her, a lot of what she's learned on TikTok or YouTube, but also because she's paying attention to what's on the shelf. She loves to pick up a product and go, oh, look what's in this, you know? And she also, too, you know, wants to formulate a hair care brand for all because there's a lot of multiracial kids running around the world and they're getting their textures from all over the place. And so it is exciting to me what they care, that they care about clean, that they care about sustainable in a way that I think that maybe that generation that I'm a part of kind of sat in the middle. You know, we had to adapt to all of that. We weren't digital natives, so that's exciting.
Well, my daughter's 6, so I'll keep you all posted about what Alpha generation will be caring about. So stay tuned.
Alpha soon.
What a great panel. Thank you all so much. And thank you to Nyakio and Michelle for all their insights. Thank you, everyone.